Now when we walk into Marriott's across this country and they holler champ, we're going to do a quadruple knockout because we don't know who they're talking about.
The best looking man, the best dressed man, long limousines, jet airplanes, custom made clothes.
To be the man, you got to beat the man. We are the Four Horsemen.
I absolutely missed this intro. It's been, what, Jack, when did you move to the UK?
When I was born, actually.
No, when you moved back here like a couple weeks ago, right?
Well, technically it was 3 months ago, but I've been back since, back full time since August 1st. So 6 weeks.
So we haven't recorded an episode in at least 6 weeks. And that makes sense considering, it's only the start of football season.
Yeah.
Somebody cue that Cam Newton audible. We're back!
Yeah. Honestly, we should have been back sooner. So we should probably preface this by saying we're sorry we didn't do any draft prep. I think we were all a bit busy with our own personal lives and stuff, but it's great to be back after week one talking about some football, boys.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that note, we got you got me, you got Carlos, that's Carlos with a K, got Gil Benhamu, I got Jack Hopkins all the way across the pond. So now we're international. And then we got Nick Romeo. Boys, yes. I missed having all four of us in the studio. Obviously, it's hard to do that unless we, take the transatlantic and hang out over there. But what's up? How has football week one treated everyone?
Well, for starters, I'm in 7 leagues now, as opposed to where I was in 4 last year. And I did a dynasty league for the first time. So of the 7 leagues, I won 3 over the weekend. And God bless Justin Jefferson for somehow keeping my dynasty team alive and actually pulling through and winning.
God bless auto draft for Carlos in our league.
Carlos, oh no!
Carlos ended up with Justin Jefferson in our league for the viewers. He auto drafted, forgot the draft time.
No, I don't have.
Jamar Chase.
No, I don't have Justin Jefferson. I have Stephon Diggs and Jamar Chase.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Somebody else has Jefferson, but
still worked out really well.
He still has a great duo.
Oh yeah,
His running back room is not
the computer knew exactly what it was doing.
Oh my God.
No, I'm in 3 leagues and I lost all 3. So it's a similar start to me that I had last season because I'm pretty sure I started terribly last season. Just had a little bit of tough luck, but I feel like week one, guys, you guys can probably agree to this as well, this is like the most key time to fantasy football because this is the time when managers panic. This is the time when I drafted terribly, my team is awful, etc. People are dropped to the waiver wire that shouldn't be, and I am trying to preach my own advice and listen to my own advice by saying, I'm not going to panic. I lost narrowly in a couple, and I just had some hard luck. Keenan Allen, obviously now was out the game, knocked out the game, and he's out. And there's a bunch of players I guess we could talk about that you need to keep an eye on because there's a bunch of players that were knocked out. There's a lot of big news. Elijah Mitchell is obviously going to be out. Dak's obviously out. Keenan Allen's now out this week and stuff. So week one it's always like this, isn't it? It's always who is this player? Who led the Cowboys in yards this week, guys, in receiving yards?
It could have been worse. We could have scored 34 points like that guy from Beach Report. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I think I saw that.
Yeah, that was miserable.
Noah Brown, by the way.
Higgins, Mitchell, Lamb. He had the worst team you could possibly put on paper at the end of the day.
Sorry, just no one answered me then, but it was Noah
Brown. Let's go. Lieutenant Data is back.
It's just looking at that, it's guys, please don't panic.
Let's be very clear. We had no idea who that was until Sunday Night Football.
0.
Yeah.
So there's
I knew who it was because he went to my friend's high school and he'd always tell me who it was.
No way.
But it's because Michael Gallup's obviously not there at the moment and stuff. It's just worth mentioning on that note that CeeDee Lamb had 11 targets and only 2 catches. So we'll see what happens. There's a bit of foreshadowing. But anyway, I'm doing good.
Yeah, well, a little better than me. I'm 1-1. I had, and we'll talk about this as we get into our main segment. And let's just actually get right into it. So we want to really briefly and I emphasize the word briefly, Gil, on our week 1 winners and busts, because obviously in order to know what to do week 2, you got to kind of build upon the small sample size we have in that full slate of games on last Sunday. So I'll just kick it off and then we'll go down the line here. My week 1 winner is fairly easy for me. I initially was going to go with low-hanging fruit, which is Justin Jefferson, but we all know, if you picked him up in the first round, chances are he was going to ball out for you anyway. So I'm going to go with Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman got 121 yards and a touchdown, and this is coming fresh off of a 1,000-yard season in which he scored 6 touchdowns with Carson Wentz as his quarterback. Now you have Matt Ryan. Now, Matt Ryan, obviously, his better football days are behind him, but he's still a quality starting quarterback in this league, and he's never been a rushing threat, so everything that he's going to be able to give is going to be given through his arms. So who better to benefit from that than Pittman, who's really showed out that he's probably one of a top-tier receiver in this league. He just needed some stability at the quarterback position. He's going from Phillip Rivers to Carson Wentz to Matt Ryan. So obviously he doesn't have a quarterback of the future there, but it doesn't matter. You can see that his stats are essentially quarterback proof. So I really think Michael Pittman is going to have a fantastic season. I think you can book in for 1,000 yards easy, but he's easily my week 1 winner. Nick, I'll throw it over to you. Who do you have for your week 1 win?
I actually got someone who was just acquired from a trade from the draft. A.J. Brown, Philadelphia Eagles. Look, he looked great. Jalen Hurts and him had such great chemistry. What was it? 10 receptions on 13 targets, 155 yards. That's great. But no touchdowns, sadly.
That's
Jalen Hurts
insane, too, though. No touchdowns with all that production.
Yeah.
All that production, no touchdowns. All the running backs got it. It was sadly, that's the script that they went. But you know what? And later down the line, especially even next week against the Minnesota Vikings, I can definitely see him getting in the end zone at least once. Even though Minnesota Vikings showed like they had a good defense against Rodgers, they have no wide receivers. I think they're going to have a great game. Hurts really showed like he can do everything on each side of the ball. When they needed to, he would get first down with his legs. This offense is going to be explosive, and A.J. Brown's just one of the biggest reasons why this offense is just really upgraded.
I think what's crazy weren't most of Philadelphia's touchdowns ran in?
Yeah, Miles Sanders had 2 of them.
If not all of them, yeah.
All 4 were. Yeah.
Because Kenneth Gainwell got 1, Sanders had 2, and I forgot who got the 4th.
No.
Hurts ran one in himself, too.
Boston Scott got 1, Gainwell got 1, Sanders got 1, Hurts got 1. There was 4 different.
Oh, I thought Sanders had 2. All right.
No, Sanders had 1. I remember it was very spread.
Which makes that backfield a mess.
Yeah,
Even then, I had Gainwell on my bench and he still put up 11.
Yeah, that game's backfield was a mess because if you remember rightly, Swift had almost 150 yards on the ground. Jamal Williams had 28, and Jamal Williams had 2 touchdowns. So it's just like that's just what happens sometimes, I think that's what we're talking about.
Madness. Yeah,
don't hit the panic button. That's what I'm saying. That's what we've been saying,
So, Gil, you want to go ahead and who was your week 1 winner?
My week 1 winner, I feel like most of the time, this person, just for this season, I don't think anybody had him slotted as a wide receiver 1, as A.J. Brown was for some teams, unless you drafted a higher end wide receiver. My pick was Michael Thomas, who for most people would probably have him running at the flex spot with reasonable concern. Michael Thomas finished the comeback win against Atlanta. He started off a little rocky, but he finished that win with 8 targets, 5 receptions for 57 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Now, obviously, this isn't necessarily the Michael Thomas of old, who would be obviously running slants, getting hundreds of yards in like a very small stretch of games. However, this is a promising sight for somebody that's drafted him late round and expected great value from him, and I think this is the top value you can get at I think you got him in round 8. Probably, in most drafts, I can imagine. And he'll probably, as long as he's healthy, he will probably be the end zone target for Jameis Winston, if it's not Kamara. I think Landry hit 100 yards that game too. But I think Thomas was really promising. This isn't the Michael Thomas of old, but I think it's a really, really nice sight to see that he's getting those touchdowns. for Winston and that Saints offense.
Jack?
Yeah. I just want to say I agree with Gil there. It was nice to see as a fantasy player. It was not nice to see as a Falcons fan. Yeah, AJ.
What a
Terrell
choke job.
As a cornerback, but he has no help, none.
Yeah.
So it's whoever he is marking tends to not get the ball, but then he can't mark everyone. So yeah, for me, this one was a no-brainer. We have two Giants fans here, and I managed to steal this guy from them. Guys, how excited were you to see Saquon Barkley back looking like Saquon Barkley? Last season, he was still being drafted at the end of the first round. Everyone was still a little bit, right, it's Saquon Barkley. He can still do it. And last season, it just did not pan out. Now, Brian Daboll, you guys must be absolutely over the moon. That video that came out after the game with Sterling Shepard and Saquon going up to Daboll, that as a not even as a Giants fan, that was really cool to see. So you guys must be just so happy to see that they love him. They can see they trust him, and you can see that Daboll trusts Saquon. Saquon had 18 rushes for 164 yards and a touchdown. That was the most yards by a running back on the ground in the entire NFL. He also, what I love is he also had 6 catches for 30 yards and the 2-point conversion. So he's being involved in the passing game as well. And then when you look at it as well, you're like, right, last season, there was guys who were looking better on the ground. Do you remember that game that Saquon had last season where he had 24 rushes for 50 yards or something? And,
yeah.
I can't remember who the backup was, but he looked so much better.
It was Devontae Booker. Yeah.
Devontae Booker, that's right. He looked so much better. Breeder only had 5 rushes this game, and he had about 20 yards. Saquon looks back to Saquon-esque. The way he runs, it just looked great. I think he's going to be great for the rest of the season. And if you picked him up in the second round, I think you're going to be getting a guy who's worth round 1 value.
Yeah, he's potentially a league winner the way he performed against the Titans, and and the matchup this week is not too bad. The Carolina Panthers. I think they'll probably score a little bit better than the Tennessee Titans did, because I've been really down on the Tennessee Titans, what they did in the offseason. Trading away A.J. Brown didn't make any sense to me. But, we'll see how it goes. I think Saquon, if he's back to where he was in his rookie year, he's essentially matchup proof. So if you got him in the second round, you could possibly be sitting on league winning territory right over there. So for every winner, there's always going to be a loser. That's typically how it works out in these games, and we have week 1 losers. I'll kick this one off as well. This one is near and dear to me because I have them in both the leagues that I'm in.
Oh, no.
Los Angeles Rams running back Cam Akers. And this one is really hard to swallow. And I'm with Jack when he talked about earlier about not panicking after week 1. There's a lot of teams and managers that are panicking. Just looking in my league, I saw Devontae Smith from the Eagles got dropped. I'm going to pick him up, so I hope my friends don't listen to this recording. With that said, don't panic quite yet. But from what you saw on Thursday night with Akers and the disparity of rushes that Darrell Henderson got, if you burnt a 3rd-round pick like I did on Cam Akers, you are absolutely hitting the red alarm. It's borderline droppable. I'm not going to do it quite yet. I have to see what's going to happen with Akers and the rest of the Rams offense, because I do believe this is a plus matchup with the Atlanta Falcons. Sorry, Jack. I just feel like Stafford and gang are going to come out for revenge and just really hang 35 on the Falcons. If Akers does not eat this week, I would be very, not only frustrated, I'd be really nervous. And his trade value will be absolute shite at that point. I can't see Akers having back-to-back games, and you're able to get anything from that. So he's my clear-cut week 1 loser. He had 3 rushes, no yards. So that's about as 0 as you can get. I don't know how you guys could possibly find somebody worse than me. But Jack, I'll actually kick it. We'll reverse the order. Who do you have as your week 1 bust?
Yeah, so I alluded to this earlier. My week 1 bust is CeeDee Lamb. Okay, I think he's one of those people, though, that is someone that you shouldn't panic too much on because of pure volume alone. He had 11 targets, but he only railed in 2 catches for 29 yards. Okay, the big kicker here is that Dak is obviously now out for 6 to 8 weeks. Everyone's seen that he's going to need surgery on his thumb. The weird thing is that they haven't put him on the IR. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that. Obviously, I think if you put them on the IR, they're out for automatic 8 weeks. Is that right? Or is it 6 weeks?
Four.
Oh, it's only 4, is it? So
yeah.
I think that Dak is backing himself to get back in those 4 weeks. But if you're Jerry Jones, or if you're anyone who's within that organization, you don't want Dak coming back on the early time of that time set. And may I just add, there was a certain quarterback who came back too early after a thumb injury last year by the name of Russell Wilson. And do you guys remember how bad he looked?
He didn't look right at all.
This game?
I do want to mention that, this isn't the first time the Cowboys are going to try to rush Dak Prescott from an injury. Because this is exactly what happened last year with his calf. And then look what happened. His play immediately took a dip.
Yeah, and speaking of rushing, the backup is Cooper Rush, okay? And I think... that
what a
Cooper
segue.
That's great.
I think that Cooper Rush is obviously... Will CeeDee Lamb be better with Dak? Yes. But the ball has to be passed somewhere. It's not like Cooper Rush is just going to be handing the ball off the entire time. And who is the guy that you would throw the ball to the most? Well, it's got to be CeeDee Lamb. Yeah, Dalton Schultz had 7 for 62 or whatever, and I mentioned Noah Brown earlier as well. And Michael Gallup's not quite back yet. I don't think you can hit the panic button quite yet on the CD, but if I was a manager who had drafted him, he was going as high as early second round,
right?
Around just after Stephon Diggs and after Jamar Chase, I would be a little nervous because your second round pick, you want to be picking up a minimum of 15 points in the week, and I think getting double digit points out of CeeDee Lamb at the moment is going to be about where his floor is, not at the 15-18 mark that you would want out of your second round pick.
Yeah, I'll just briefly cut in before I throw it to Gil. This is Jerry Jones' fingerprints all over it. I don't understand not putting him in the IR unless you just can't believe that there's someone out there that's going to be worthy of the roster spot for a couple of weeks. But
Jimmy.
No, it's funny. I think you and I actually spoke about this in person, Gil. But San Francisco is not going to move on Jimmy Garoppolo at this point. If you saw how Trey Lance looked, Trey Lance didn't look ready, although the conditions in the field were absolute crap, and it was raining like a monsoon out there in San Francisco. I for whatever reason, if Trey Lance lays another egg, so to speak, I could see him getting this quick hook just to sit behind Garoppolo and maybe just prep a little bit more. I don't know what it is, but I feel like the 49ers are not all the way in with Trey Lance, which is absolutely insane because they're the ones who essentially tried to push Garoppolo out in the first place. But this has me screaming that the Cowboys are panicking, Jerry Jones specifically. If Dak comes back week 3, week 4, it is an absolute mistake. So I'm down on the Cowboys completely. But truth be told, I was kind of down on them to begin with. That's just, it just sucks if you're a Cowboys fan. But me as a Giants fan, I take great pleasure in this. So Gil, I'll throw it to you for your thoughts and for your week 1 bust.
I think first off, I want to say Trey Lance probably has a little bit more benefit of the doubt because of that weather game. So we don't know how well or how not well he'll perform. But for my pick, I'm staying in New Orleans. I went wide receiver for the winner, and for the loser, I'm going running back, Mr. Alvin Kamara of the Saints. Now listen, people have taken Alvin Kamara up and down in the second round thinking this will be a great choice, and I agree, it is a great choice. So it's a bit concerning to see that he started off with a 7.6 point performance against a really not good Atlanta defense. Sorry, Jack.
I don't want any apologies for rinsing the Falcons this year, guys. They're not good, okay? We can stomp all over them. I'm giving 3.
Yeah, the light at the end of the tunnels, you will have a top 5 pick.
So, Kamara finished with 9 rushing attempts for 39 yards, then also added on 3 receptions out of 4 targets for 7 yards in the air, which I don't like at all. People swore up and down, and we all know Kamara is that prime target that can kind of make anything out of nothing. And to see that kind of performance happen, although everybody else on that Saints offense played great. Even all the way to Chris Olave, who had a decent, really hit the floor on what a wide receiver 3 should be doing. And Jameis Winston has still had a fantastic finish with that game as well. So to see Kamara, who was basically the crown jewel of this offense, do next to nothing, I think was weird, borderline concerning, especially how things happened last year. Taysom Hill scored a touchdown this week too, which I that made my face turn red. I was pissed off, but Kamara, I think there's room for concern. I genuinely think there's area for concern with him.
And this rib injury. Can I also say this rib injury?
He's not 100%.
Yeah, that's what I'm also concerned about. He's a limited participant today as well, so I think that's just worth monitoring too. Just throw him out there. You can't put him on the bench. Just throw him out there with lower expectations. I think that's the thing.
You think Taysom Hill should be grabbed in leagues if he's a tight end option?
I don't know, because at the end of the day, that would hinge on the fact that they're gonna constantly make end zone plays around Hill, and I don't necessarily think it's a reliable source of fantasy output. I feel like you need to rely on a bit more consistency, and I don't know how often that's gonna happen.
If you're starting someone like Cameron Brate, that's your starting tight end, let's say you went heavy on wide receivers and running backs, I'm gonna pick up a Taysom Hill, because you know what? Don't be surprised if just every so often you get a gadget play where he just throws for a touchdown or something like that. I would take Taysom Hill.
He might even run it in at this point too.
Yeah.
Nikki?
Agreed.
All right. For my loser, I'm actually staying in Philly. Sadly, because I had him on my team, my major league. Devontae Smith. 4 targets, no receptions. I mean, there was come in, right, and the penalty took it away. But you know what? It just didn't look like it matched up, especially with my winner being A.J. Brown taking up all the receptions, all the targets. Again, like we were talking about before, just the game schedule, or the game plan was run the ball down the line's throats, and that's exactly what they did with A.J. Brown's help in the air. So Devontae Smith wasn't a part of it. Sadly, just 0 points, completely healthy. I thought he was out at halftime, but it turns out he was there still. I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it. But you know what? I could see it eventually, he's just got to get his chemistry now with his main wide receiver. He's got to understand, I'm the second guy in this offense behind A.J. Brown, and Jalen Hurts' new favorite target is the man they just acquired from a trade over the offseason.
Yeah, he was definitely a week 1 loser for me, but I wouldn't give up hope on him quite yet. I actually think that Philly offense is going to be really good. It could sustain multiple fantasy players. And I think Devontae Smith will certainly have weeks that, I don't want to say he's going to win you, but I think he's going to have weeks that will really help out your team. So if you're a fool like my friend that dropped him, you should really rush to go pick him back up, because he's certainly better than some of the wide receiver 2s and 3s that you're going to find out there on the waiver wire. So we're running at about 23 minutes into the show, so let's do this last part very quickly. We're going to give you some bust candidates that are bound to bounce back. I'll start this off, give you 30 seconds or less. If you started the Indianapolis Colts against the Houston Texans thinking that they were going to feast, you didn't really quite get what you wanted. They wound up tying the hapless Texans 2020. And while they still had a decent game on paper, having 3 sacks, they had no picks. It really just, Houston, I was shocked to see the stat line. I don't know who scored, and it wasn't Damian Pierce, who was the fantasy darling, because what's his face got cut. I'm just drawing a blank on him now, but I'm sorry,
Mark Ingram.
Thank you. If you started him just thinking that you were going to get an absolute drudging like the Ravens did to the Jets, you were disappointed. You probably walked off about 5-6 points, but facing the Houston Texans, you thought you were going to get in double-digit figures. But not all is lost, because your week 2 matchup is Jacksonville Jaguars, and while the Jags didn't look that bad against the Commanders, I expect the Colts to bounce back and put up double-digit points. I'm easily forecasting about 4 to 5 sacks, and Trevor Lawrence hasn't shown that he's been that protective of the ball, so I could see either a fumble or an interception getting you to that 9-10 point threshold.
Yeah, I like this. It's just funny going for a defense as a bounce back catcher. When not a player, isn't it?
Gotta go out of the box sometimes,
I'll I want to go here because I want to kind of push back a little bit on Nick here. So his bust was obviously Devontae Smith, and I agree he was bad this week. But I was doing a little bit of research before the game, before the podcast.
Oh, research, you don't say.
Yeah, what a shock. And thanks to Carl Yates for this. But guys, do you want to take a guess of which wide receiver had the most snaps for Philly this week?
Was it Devontae Smith?
Was it Devontae Smith?
Well,
Yeah.
do you want to take a guess at which wide receiver ran the most routes for Philly this week?
Was it also Devontae Smith?
It was also Devontae Smith. So I like that. I think those are the kind of things that sometimes I think you have to look at, because we look at the box score.
Right.
And that's what every fantasy manager looks at, and they go, Devontae Smith had 3 targets, 0 receptions, I need to drop him. And that's what someone's done in Carlos's league. Now, what I love is that he's out there and he's running routes. So the fact of the matter is, AJ Brown is going to draw in the best corner and the best coverage of any team there is, which is going to give Devontae Smith, in matchups against like the Atlanta Falcons, for instance, the backup corner, the second option. And I really feel like Devontae Smith, like we got glimpses of it last season. We didn't get consistency, but we also didn't get consistency from Hurts. But I really feel like he's going to have a good season in Philly. I'm in agreement with Carlos in that. I think that that Philly are going to be good this year and they're going to be exciting. So don't drop Devontae Smith yet. That's all I'm saying. They're playing Minnesota this week, so we'll see.
That's I would say there's a bit of promise, but I don't know what kind of game we're going to get from Jalen Hurts in that backfield. If they're going to try to go run heavy, I won't even see much from AJ Brown either. So I would probably say it's with caution to say he'd bounce back, but it's still I can't call it completely viable. For me, I have Aaron Jones, and the reason is, like, although he finished with 10 points, and that's, like, solid RB2 numbers, especially if you drafted one in the first round, he got out-targeted, and he got outran by A.J. Dillon. And I, as a Aaron Jones owner in a couple of leagues, was fuming. So, and given the matchup next week, I don't expect this to be a consistent issue. I think it'll be like here and there with Dillon and Jones constantly being like a back and forth thing. That's why I think he'll bounce back, especially with a week 2 opponent being the Chicago Bears on, I believe, Sunday Night Football. So I would take Jones in this scenario. I think he'll end up having more of the workload, and I would see him kind of just sticking to it right there.
Yeah, you know what? I agree. I think Aaron Jones can have a really good bounce back game. It's just A.J. Dillon again. That's why I stayed away from from Aaron Jones in most of my leagues. A.J. Dillon's a problem on the field, just for like defenses itself. Not to mention Aaron Jones owners. But for bounce back from I'm gonna say it real quick. I got Tom Brady against the Saints. You know, I think Falcons put up some good numbers against them, and Tom Brady's just gonna. Just shut him apart with Mike Evans, Russell Gage, Julio Jones there. No Chris Godwin yet. But that offense is great. Leonard Fournette could even have some good points. And then Dawson Knox last year with 1.5 points last week. You know, it's going to be a different week. That offense is really good. Josh Allen's a stud. He's facing the Titans on Monday night. Dawson Knox is going to have a bounce back, and he's going to get in the end zone. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I like all those picks, guys. I think Dawson Knox certainly is he's gonna have games like this in week 1, to be honest, just because there's a lot of mouths to feed. Isaiah McKenzie got a touchdown, for God's sake. So I think anybody is liable to score at with the Bills offense, whether it's Diggs, Gabe Davis, even the running backs at Singletary and Moss. So, but I do like Dawson Knox to bounce back. Gil, I'm with you. I think the Green Bay Packers offense as a whole is going to completely bounce back. There's no way Aaron Rodgers is going to have a terrible game against the Chicago Bears. He owns the Bears. He averages 242 yards and 2 touchdowns a game against them. He's 22-5 in his win-loss record against the Bears. So the Packers, I expect the Packers to completely feast. And Jack, I'm actually with you as well. I do like Devontae Smith because we touched about it earlier. I think the Philadelphia Eagles offense is going to be really good. Originally, we were going to do a game, but you know what? We're going to cut this short because it's week 1 and let everybody just get their week 2 lineups. We told you the players we want you to avoid. And with that said, it just feels really good to be back in football. Guys, I miss talking to you like this, and I really hope that we're going to be able to record sooner rather than later. Let's not have another 3-month hiatus.
Agreed. Absolutely agree.
Absolutely. Thank you for hosting, Carlos. And yeah, tell us where they can find us.
Absolutely.
Well, you can follow us on Instagram, the 4 Horsemen of Fantasy, as well as our YouTube, 4 Horsemen of Fantasy. Subscribe, like, comment. We'll see you guys soon.
You back.